I bought one for my own home. She bought one for kids, but then I ordered one for home. I mean, I ordered one for
I heard. I haven't been out there to see him yet, but I
so people already like have their information.
Yeah.
She did what she was
Yeah,
doing,
no.
how she reacted, and then they're all based on you. So far, there's this one teacher that says that you take my sister back because we like how she feels. And unfortunately for the other girl, I've already built her by like an hour, a year and a half. I didn't know she was going to be so cool. So she's already feel bad. I feel bad for her. She
For those of y'all coming in, there are a bunch of seats up here in the front. You can't really see them from the back, but there's lots of open seats. Okay, welcome guys. We're going to go ahead and get started with this session. If you're still looking for a seat, there are about 20-30 seats up here at the front that are very, very open if you want to come find a seat. Thank you guys for being here. I know it's been a long weekend, so I'm glad you guys are still making it. I just have a few things to go over before we get started. You've probably heard it 1,000 times now in all your sessions, but I am going to say all of it again. Please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices out of respect for our speakers. If you have a great program to share in the future, conference session program proposals are now being accepted for next year's 2026 Asca conference in New Orleans. You can visit Asca's website for more information on that. And then don't forget to complete the evaluation for this session in the conference app after the session. That little button shows up on the conference or on the session page. It is time sensitive, so it will not show up until about 2:30. So if you don't see it in a second, it will pop up. That's really helpful for us to hear. And then per the Asca event policy, all content materials distributed at this session are copyright of Asca, and where the speakers presenting, sharing photos, video, and audio recording is not permitted. Please join me in welcoming our speakers, and I'm excited for this session. Thanks, guys.
Hello everyone and welcome. Good afternoon, welcome to our session. We are super excited to have you guys here. I know this is right after lunch, and it's the third day, but we're very excited that you guys are here. And the theme for the day is innovative restorative practices. So we can be more excited than to share with you what has helped us shift and entirely change the culture of our school throughout the years that we've been together. And so we're very excited to have you here. Our hope is that you get some nuggets and some takeaways, and that you continue to collaborate with your teams and learn something that's going to be beneficial for your schools. All right, so who are we? So we are a middle school in El Cajon, California, the county of San Diego. We work for the Cajon Valley, for our district is Cajon Valley Union School District in El Cajon, and so we're just a middle school. We have about 700 and plus kids. We're going to get in touch with the demographics eventually, so you understand our populations and our families, our breakdown is. But because of the collaborative work we've done together as a team, admin, counseling, staff, and how we've been able to shift our culture throughout the years into a more restorative practices environment, we've had the honor of just getting some of these awards over the years that just speak to the work that we do. And so this is part of our introduction too. So my name is Jorge Andrade. I'm one of the school counselors at Greenfield. And so I've been in education for 13 years, 6 years as a teacher, 7 years as a counselor, and I'm also a Navy reservist. I'm in the Navy Reserves. I've been serving for the past 3 years, and I also love it. So, and then, well, introduce yourselves.
Thank you, Lauren. And I'm Jake Plunder. I am the former and blessed principal of Greenfield Middle School. I am no longer the principal there. I have moved on to be a principal coach and systems coach at a district next door to try to implement a lot of the things that we have going on or had going on over at Greenfield. But I was blessed with my time and the team that I had, and we've all kind of found our own path after we've done some great work together.
Hi everybody, I'm Katie of Sierra London. I started my career in Sierra, my career at Coen Valley. For 9 years I was a school counselor. I did 1 year in elementary, and then the other 8 years I was at Greenfield. And then I just spent the last year as a program specialist in restorative practices at our district office. And I'm going into year 2. I love coaching basketball and hanging with my family. And yeah, we're just excited about all the work that we're going to share with you.
And just really briefly and really quick, just the work that we've done together. 2025 was a great year. We got the exemplary school counseling program with Asca, a great award. Again, that all the work together throughout the years, we've been able to accomplish these things that are just a blessing, right? We also are with Sierra London, Candia Sierra London. In 2024, she got the award of Middle School Counselor of the Year with San Diego County of Education, and our incredible principal also was recognized as the Administrator of the Year through CASC 2025. So all these great things that we've been able to accomplish because of the culture shift that has happened over the years, and we're going to get into that. This is our copyright notice. I know that you're aware of that. You've seen it. I'm not going to spend any time on that. All right, so our learning objectives. So our heart and our goal for this session with you, this hour that we have, is we hope that after attending this session, you will be able to apply and maybe also learn just the framework of restorative practices within the Asca framework model, right? And how that enables us to just implement more effective interventions in our schools, recognize the importance of collaboration between everyone at the school counselors, admin, staff, and what do we do to set goals and develop those goals. Integrate trauma-informed practices, SEL and ART, into a reintegration model of practice that hopefully can help reduce just your overall number of suspensions and just bring a better community. And just finally identify strategies for tracking and analyzing data, right? All right, but before we do all of that, since the heart of this session is restorative practices, and we believe that restorative practice involves everyone, we want to make sure that we engage with you. We want to give you a minute or two to do a pair share. So why don't you pair up with someone really quickly? Introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, your role in education, and please share something meaningful. Small win that you've had this school year, or one way your school tries to build community. All right, ready? 1 minute or 2, and let's go. Thank you so much, everyone. I know there are a lot of great insight and great things that you were hearing, and we're so happy that you guys got to get involved with that and just engage with us in that. So thank you for that.
All right, before I move on, I just wanted to let you all know that I did upload the PowerPoint on June 4th, but I did talk to Jen, so she is going to upload it, so you will have access to the PowerPoint. So I just want to let all of you know. So just some insight about our district in general. We have over 15,000 students, 78% of them socioeconomically disadvantaged, 33% of our kids are English language learners, a little over 18%. We have students who are receiving special education services. We have a high refugee and newcomer population, and there's over 40 languages that are spoken in our district. And the reason why I'm sharing some of our district demographics is like later on when I get into some of the reintegration work that we're doing, we do it with all 5 of our middle schools, but there are some things that we especially do at Greenfield. So Greenfield has 766 students, 25% of them are students who are on IEPs, 91% socioeconomically disadvantaged, and 34% of our kids are ELs. So we actually weren't going to do this, but we had decided that we were. But we're taking advantage and just wanting to share a lot of this great work that we basically have started the restorative tiered systems of support. So you guys are the first ones to hear about RTSS. So today, you're going to hear about the innovative work that we do, and I know a lot of people know about community circles, and you know about reintegration meetings, but we're going beyond that, because we know those are a lot of key practices and restorative practices that you guys hear about, so we want to go beyond that. And that was the reason why we shared a lot of, the accolades that we received, because we have shown that we can have a comprehensive school counseling program and still move beyond that and do some of this innovative work. So in RTSS, we have 4 tiers. So tier 1, it's all about the foundations, really about community building, right? So some of the key aspects that some of you might know, like classroom code, our agreements, doing classroom circles, SEL, and really big on community building practices. In tier 2, we work a lot on responsibility and restoration. And the reality is sometimes people think like, well, if that kid didn't take accountability, or like, you didn't apologize to me, that like restorative practice didn't work. Well, the reality is, if you don't have a relationship, there's nothing to restore, right? And like, let's be real, like, we all have a timeshare and pay bill, and especially when you work with middle schoolers and high schoolers, like, they can hold some grudges. But really also understanding that you can be proactive in tier 2. Like, a kid doesn't have to do something in order for you to still identify and be intentional about like, I feel like this kid is disconnected, and Jake's going to talk about this, about how he incorporated walk and talks by really giving teachers opportunities to continue to build relationships that may be like the universal thing you're doing in your class, like it's not working. Again, it's early intervention, focus on repairing harm, and really creating structured opportunities for students and staff to reflect on their shared experiences. So when we go into our PLUS program and we talk about amplifying student voice, how are we taking responsibility as a community, understanding what we're all experiencing, and incorporating that to make our school climate better, right? So again, having those restorative conversations, responsive circles, small groups. Tier 3 is about reintegration. I love reintegration, and you're gonna see why. But really it's about reentry planning, right? As school counselors, we always do it. When the kid has SI, they have SH, right? You know when that kid comes back, they're getting a safety plan. So what are we doing when kids return from suspension? What type of reentry plan are we creating for them, right? Sometimes we just sit with them, we have a meeting, we're sending you on your way. So again, reintegration meetings, restorative circles, reentry planning, and then we're going to talk about restorative programming. And then tier 4 is reconnection, right? So really collaborating with our community partners to support students facing the most complex challenges. And the QR code over here, like we're hoping to get to time to Q&A, but at any time and point, if you see the QR code and you have questions, because if we can't get to Q&A and you leave your email, your name, we will make sure to answer any questions that you have. So this is just some data from our school data story. To be honest, I didn't do 24-25 because I was putting together a lot of the district data. But the first year, I would say 22-23, we really incorporated our restorative repair center. And not to say that that data was the thing alone that created a lot of this progress. It will be a multitude of things that you're going to see. We just feel like our restorative repair center, when we did reintegration, really brought everything together. So you can kind of understand the work about like when kids get that first suspension, what are we doing with them when they reintegrate? And as you can see, a lot of them are going back into the school community and not getting another suspension, right? Like over 50%. Great. So another thing at Greenville is we don't have lunch detention anymore. We haven't had it for 2 years. So we as like a counseling department, like the whole team wasn't here, but we were actually trying to make it restorative. Like we were trying to do like lunch reflections with kids, and we were like, oh no, like, this isn't working. So we like got together and we were like, oh, we have to have this conversation with Jake. Is he gonna say like, no, like, can we stop doing it? I don't know. We thought it was gonna be like this full drawn out like conversation. We found him in the hallway and we're like, Jake, like we don't think lunch detention is working. Can we just stop doing it? Like in general, like for the whole school? And he's like, okay. Thanks, Jake. Our AP came back because he was on vacation for 2 weeks. He wasn't very happy. But, you know, he even volunteered to do it himself, and we're like, no. But what I really wanted to show with that was like having our restorative program, the Restorative Repair Center, is just showing that like there was 890 times in 22-23 that we were interacting with students, right, and working with them. And we changed what the intentionality of our work was and what we did with kids. And we met with 45% less kids, and we saw all this change, right? So really evaluating your systems and the work that you do to really see like what's working and what's not working, right? I don't think it's fair that like elementary kids can have like their lunchtime and recess, but like, come on, what about some of our older kids? So now we're gonna get into relationships and community building.
Thank you. That story's a little bit longer than what Candia brought up about the whole lunch detention thing. But before I get started here, how many of you, just show of hands in the room, are administrators at a school? All right, not enough. For the rest of you who need help with administrators, please feel free to contact me. I'll contact them to let them know the great work that you guys do. Okay, just without you guys, this stuff doesn't happen. See, now everybody loves me. Now let's go talk about some stuff. But lunch detention, it's a fun one, right? It doesn't work and it doesn't do anything. What I think it shows an example of, more than anything else, is we continued to iterate on lunch detention to try to make it better for our school. Like, is it punitive? We're taking things away? Are kids gonna learn? Let's move it to be like in a different location. I think we tried 2 or 3 different locations. We tried the different humans that were in there. All lunch detention does is create a space where all your kids who get in trouble know that they can all go at the same time, and it kills the adults in the room. So it didn't happen in the hallway, it was okay, but then we had a meeting about it, and it was like, we don't do it anymore. So we don't do it anymore. Now what do? Doesn't mean you do nothing, but if you find something that's not working, and it doesn't work on the level that it's killing your adults, stop. Just stop. It's amazing. There's certain things, like a referral. If a referral sucks, stop using it. I guarantee you the sun's gonna come up the next day, and those kids are still gonna come to school. And then figure out how to fix it. Now we did that in a bunch of different ways. So we're going to start with, I see restorative practices. When we started this whole thing and we started like changing what we were doing to try to help kids, we were not trying to be a restorative practice at school. We didn't go to some training and then go, let's go do restorative practices. It was one of those where like, we kind of didn't even know what it was at first. Candida had some extensive training and understanding of what was going on, but we met continuously and kept trying to figure out, how do we help these kids? What is the best thing for this kid? And through those meetings, we began to change things that we did. And then all of a sudden, everybody kept telling us, you guys do restorative practices. And it's like, okay, really what we do on a day-to-day basis is we do what's best for our kids. Okay? Now, what I see in restorative practices currently is like you're in the second wave, where at first it came out and everybody was like, it's too soft, it's too nice. You need more consequences. I love suspension. It's one of my favorite things. Okay? So we give consequences. But the piece that I see now is that nobody builds anything first. You can't restore to something that was never built, right? And so we spend a lot of time, and I'm the dictator of the culture at the school that I run, building the culture and building the relationships. We start with Jumpstart, okay? And here you guys could have hopefully read this thing by now, but here's what we do. We take the first 2 weeks of school, and I say they are now mine. They are the schools. They are not yours, teachers. They are mine. And we dictate everything that happens. And we did this with our staff. It was awesome. I got all our staff together, and I said, what are all the great get-to-know-you activities that you do with your kids? And we had this meeting. We got like 25 of them. And so what we did is we took all of them and said, awesome, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a map, because we're going to take the entire first 2 weeks, and it's going to be all relationship building. That's it. The whole reason why is the first 2 weeks of school, we don't know who's going to walk through the door anyways. I'm going to change who's in your class, so let's fix the school first. Okay? And so we took all of their activities, and we built a map and said, this is when we're going to do these different activities. Okay? In first period on this day, we're playing bingo. On second period this day, we're going to do step to the line. Third period, we're going to do some other activity somebody else came up with. Teachers at first are like, oh, heck no. I do bingo. I don't do step to the line, I do bingo. And we had to continue to remind them, this isn't about you, it's about the children. And I didn't want the lived experience of children to be playing bingo 4 times on any given day, and then you're curious why they're apathetic and not trying. Right? So we built the whole thing out, and what also happened was the adults began to learn it's about the kids, and it ain't about me. Right? And so then we also built, you see a thing that says SWORD, that's our PBIS program that we had before I got there. You also have to teach kids, how does your school function? And when we started to build Jumpstart, and I'm going to get into onboarding a little bit later, what was great is we had to clearly define those things. We had to clearly define our school culture before we could go present it to kids. Because you can't take and this is probably going to happen to quite a few of you guys, and it's kind of sad, those 9th graders that are walking in or 6th graders that are walking in, you're probably not going to teach them how to go to lunch or how to go to the restroom. And then you're going to get mad at them when they do it wrong. That is your fault. That is not their fault. And you telling them you're supposed to go down that hallway to go to lunch is not teaching anyone. Okay, go have a child. Try that. I have 2 of my own sons. They're tornadoes. I tell them to do one thing, I got to tell them 500 times. And I got to practice it. And I still got to yell at them. And then they figure it out. Right? And so we work continually in the first 2 weeks on teaching kids what the school is supposed to do. And we spend the time focused on relationships. I can talk about this for an hour. I need to move on. I know I'm taking too much time. Part of it too, last part of it, is we build within it community building events. Per grade level that do different things on the second week. So somebody's out on the field, somebody's going to be doing the counselor-led assemblies. When we do it a second time, we do it in January as well. We do like camp lead style activities. We mix up the classes that they all have and say we're going to do by alphabetical. This group of kids, you're now going to this group, this teacher's class, and you guys are going to go play these games. And the whole thing is about building relationships amongst every kid on our campus. Kids know each other, they won't punch each other in the head. At least that's what we tried. What we found, this data just shows the beginning of the year, it's the first 8 weeks. The amount of incidents we had before we started doing Jumpstart, and then we started putting it in. This group's like the favorite group in the history of all of them, because when we talk about a bunch of the systems we do, they're the group that got it for 3 years. They got all the things. They got all the love, they got all the stuff. We are super sad to see our 8th graders go, because they were the best and they were so easy. And the whole reason is we know them so deeply and their families.
So just kind of piggybacking off of what Jake says, I know all schools have their events, right? But really what we dive into is all of those events should not have an LOP list. We all have to find a balance between all throughout the year what activities will every kid go to, including field trips and things like that, right? And which ones does LP apply to? Because the reality is, I know there's that one kid that you know would probably never go to anything, right? Oh, sorry, great, loss of privilege. The loss of privilege is list. So if you get a referral, right, you get an administrator and they're like, yeah, you're not going to field day, right? So I think the biggest thing we do is we find that balance. And I like to call it the advocacy cheat codes, okay? So the great thing about our administration was we would basically say, if it's a counseling-led activity that we created, counselors have nothing to do with discipline. So therefore, every kid will participate. And every event we do is also an attendance campaign. And I remember we got in this little argument, and it was an argument. Jake was just sitting there, and it was me and the teacher that we butt heads a lot. And he was just like, well, I'll take the room with the kids who have the most tardies and all of these things. And he was like, they don't deserve to go. And then like Jake let us go, at it for a little bit. And we're like, no, they're all going and all these things. And then Jake was sitting here and he's like, those kids aren't going to show up anyway, right? Like if they know they're going to go in this room. And then so just kind of, again, like having our back and having that relationship and understanding that like it's an attendance campaign. Those kids just wouldn't show up and it defeats the whole purpose, right? So like how do you layer and strategize some of that messaging? And we use a lot of the Asca mindset behaviors to like get a lot of our field trips educationally approved, right? And usually when it's educationally approved, you can't really say a kid can't go. It's in the educational day. So we use a lot of that to advocate, to make sure a lot of our kids go on some of these things, but also understanding that like we also have certain things, again, that loss of privilege list applies to, and we definitely have field trips throughout the year, some really big ones that like you have to earn your time to get to those. So again, just like leveraging your programs and your staff for community building, we have like 3 bell schedules where we extend our advisory block by an hour, and then we have 2 bell schedules for our events for the end of the day. So like, oh, we're gonna have Philchella Day, it's an hour and 30 minutes, right? Teachers are like, I'm losing like 5 minutes of instruction. But then what admin does is to get them really engaged, is like we do a lot of these during the school day. We don't offer them after school, right? So again, you're building that community, and Jake allows them to pick what they want to do that day. So he'll send out, a Google form, and like, oh, I want to be in the hallway, I want to be at the, ice cone station, all the things, so at least there's some autonomy there. And again, using all of our events as attendance campaigns. When we talk about Plus, our Plus advisor, which is Peer Leaders Uniting Students, which is / also our ASB, she is a part of our attendance team. And then one of the counselors, it was me, and then now it was Jorge, we are associated with the Plus advisor. So we're all doing this community work together.
I'm gonna go quick. I overtalked last time. Associated student body, we don't really have one. We have a plus, but for any of you that have California schools that you have an ASB, we don't have ASB, but like it functions as it, right? We have plus, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Okay, it's like a high school thing where kids make posters and walk around and think they're cool, so we don't do that. Okay, we answered one question. To get to Jumpstart, we answered one question because we had a year. We had a year that we called the year 140. We had 140 new kids show up at our school, we had 140 kids leave one year. It was 2021, 22. We were a very transient population, 92% socioeconomically disadvantaged. Okay, we got trauma and refugees. Okay, new kid kept blowing up our school. Anyone else ever experienced that? Right? So we had to answer a question. New kid walked on your campus. How did they learn about the school culture? And so what we did is we got everyone together and we built an onboarding process. I said, kids are not going to class till we say they can. And when can they go? Once they know what we do and how this place works. So we built a process and we asked people, we go through like 4 questions basically. If you're a parent, what are you hoping for? As a kid, what do you want on the first day? As a teacher, what do you want to know about the kid before they walk in your class? As an administrator, what are you hoping that day looks like? Kind of look at it through these 4 lenses. And then we created a map around everything that a kid had to do before they went in. And one of them should be, they should have a friend. Kid shows up and doesn't have a friend at school, school sucks. Okay? The other thing that is super hard to do, okay, but if they can meet their teachers before they go to the teacher's class, you will vastly change the relationship between kids and teachers. When a kid walks in, 13-year-old boy, I don't know how many in here, there's a lot of boys, but I've ever been a 13-year-old boy. But when you go to a class for the first time, the only thing you care about is surviving that day. You do not care what that teacher has to say. You're trying to figure out, how am I going to get through 180 of these? If you can break it down so when the kid walks in, they know that teacher knows them some and has their back, they'll start listening faster. And if you also can put them in a class where they have a friend as well, they're not going to blow up your school anymore. And so we created this process, and then this process is what led to Jumpstart. We said, if this is what we do with one kid, what are we doing for 750? And that then turned Jumpstart into 2 weeks. But we created a whole process for what it looks like. Okay? Kenya's going to get into the actual restorative discipline fun stuff that we do too.
Okay, Tier 2 responsibility and restoration. So we're going to talk about how we capture student voice. We're going to get into walk and talks. And the biggest one is opportunities for practice and skill building, right? So again, responsibility and accountability doesn't have to be a 2-way street, right? So like, what can I do as an individual or even as a student to take responsibility and maybe practice some of these skills, right? Even though I don't want to forgive another student or my teacher, what skill can they learn, right? Because the reality is SEL and restorative practices go hand in hand, right? You learn about social-emotional learning. Restorative practices gives you the platform to practice SEL.
All right, and along with that, one of the biggest pieces here that has helped us develop this, just change the atmosphere and shift the culture completely is student voice, right? And how do we capture student voice? I know Candia just touched a little bit on PLUS, and which is Peer Leaders Uniting Students, which is our kind of form of ASB. But the really cool thing, who's familiar with PLUS? Okay, great. The great thing about PLUS is that it's a group, we just finished our third year with this program. We have a phenomenal teacher or advisor who leads the work, great work with these kids. And then we also have a counselor. Last year was, this past year was myself, but Candia was there the year before, and I'm super excited to continue to work with the PLUS kiddos. And so the really cool thing about PLUS is that it involves kiddos from all kinds of backgrounds and demographics to kind of represent our student population. And the really, really cool thing about PLUS too is that they're the ones helping us out, collecting all kinds of data and just really capturing that student voice. So how does that happen? Well, we have something called Forum once a month, and it's a 90-minute event at the beginning of I think it's first period through second period, which is the beginning of the day. And so it's a 90-minute event forum where our leaders, our peer leaders, or PLUS leaders, they're leading or facilitating this event. And so it's really cool to see how students respond to their peers, kind of like leading them into conversations and questions. And so what happens in PLUS Forum is there are icebreaker and team building activities. There are guided reflections and group discussions that they do in little circles. And they also try to come up with solution-focused answers to a variety of topics. So our entire body population gets surveyed through these forums, and so we just rotate every month the student body population. And so they're surveyed on school climate, relationships, student well-being, or whatever other topics that might be relevant for them. And so what we found is that we get an amazing input and insight onto what students are seeing and noticing on campus. And so that helped us, and it's been helping us kind of develop all these things, from activities, SEL events, monthly events. Plus, students also collaborate with counselors, and we go into the classrooms and we do lessons. And it's just been an incredible thing, an incredible program that we've had for the past 3 years. And so it's been super positive.
All right, I'm up on this one. I'll just do it from here. Now I feel tall. I can see at the top of everybody. It's great. So the other system that we have, it's a tier 2 system, okay? It's 10-minute walk and talks. We have our entire administrative, counseling, and guidance team. They're the team that helps facilitate this. I send out a spreadsheet to our entire staff, and often with the spreadsheet comes with it is like a grouping of children. Teachers sign up for a walk and talk with a kid. They get to pick the kid, they get to pick the period, and we'll show up and cover their class. The whole idea is the teacher has to take the kid away from their space. They're not allowed to have a conversation right outside of their classroom, because that's what you do when the kid's in trouble. And they just get to know the kid. So oftentimes at the beginning of the year, I'll pull things like, here's our chronically absent kids from last year. And I'll send it out. Teachers pick the kids, pick the period. We show up, we'll cover their class for 10 minutes. They take the kid and they go talk to them. That's it. It's that simple. Then they come back. It's a great way for all you administrators in the room. You need to get your butt in classrooms anyways. Right? Go cover it, make them take a kid. I love it. They would leave like a math worksheet or whatever and be like, here's what we're doing. I'd be like, awesome, I'm really gonna do that. Then they would leave with the kid and I would never touch it. And then I would talk with the other 29 kids and be like, how's school going? How do we make this thing better? Does lunch suck that much? You guys really don't like the chicken sandwich? Come on, help me out. And so then I could just talk to kids for 10 minutes. They would go build a relationship and come back and we'd move on to the next one. We would hit it really hard in the very beginning of the year, September, October, and then we hit it hard again in January and February. Because your school's a brand new school year when you come back from winter break. You have no idea what happened over that break. Right? And so yes? No, 100% not, because like at any given moment too, you'll see a kid walking and talking with a teacher or an adult for any given reason. And like what we do is like, you're not picking the kid, and oftentimes when I'm setting up, we're not picking the kid who got in trouble a bunch. We've already talked to them like 47 times. We're picking the kid, and I would send it to staff of like, who's your middle of the pack? Who have you not talked to? Go look at your second period, and who do you never have to talk to? I want you to take that kid, and just go talk to him, and then bring them back. That make sense?
All right, the next part is another incredible program that we have at our school. This is also an intervention, a system, if you want to call it, too, that we put in place throughout the years. Once again, remember, just want to remind you that all of this work has taken us years and a lot of trial and error. Just really quick, I remember when they were saying, oh, lunch detention. I remember I volunteered for that. And I said, yeah, I want to do lunch detention. I'm a counselor. I think it's going to go great. Total failure. Kids wouldn't reflect. And I was getting frustrated, you know? But, so a lot of trial and error, One of the systems that we have in place at our school that's very big on restorative practices is the well. And the well is a designated spot. It's a common space on our site, on campus, that is available to all of our students. This is an incredible place that is run by two amazing staff that we have, our guidance technicians. A guidance technician is a position that we have within our district, and they work with the counseling department. And so they run the time there with the kids. And so the kids are allowed to take a break, and more than a break, to work on coping skills and how to self-regulate. Now, because of time, I'm not going to go into all the details of how this was rolled out and how admin did it, and counseling, and how staff responded. But prior to the opening of the well, we did a lot of education, a lot of training staff, and just presentations and how it would look like, the referral process, what the system was going to be. Because the time that the kids spend in this spot right here in this place is very structured, it's very intentional, it's very purposeful. And so this is an intervention that we have a system that can sit in the tier 1, tier 2, and also tier 3 intervention. But it's a great spot. The well is aligned with the guiding values of trauma-informed care. So that's safety, collaboration, empowerment, choices, trustworthiness, or reflection. And so this is a space, right now, this is the third year that we're doing, well, I'm sorry, a year and a half to second year. We're going into our kind of like third year doing the well. And so there's an overall understanding of what that place is like. Kids are not taking advantage of that space anymore. But it was a process, right? It was a process that involved everyone, and we all had to be on the same page, especially when it came to the referral process, right? How do I refer a kiddo? So if you have any questions about that, I know we don't have a lot of time to go into detail, but you can reach out to us and we can walk you through that. But the well is aligned with our values of trauma-informed care. Kids have one of the most important things in the well that they do is reflection, the power of reflection, and also the power of being able to have a choice. How do they have a choice? Well, we spend the time to develop a menu that is aligned with the Asca standards, mindsets, and behaviors. And kids not only are empowered, they have a choice to be able to select from this menu. Our acronym is MODES, M-O-D-E-S, mindfulness, opposite action, distraction, emotional awareness, and self-regulation. And so students are involved and they're a part of their whole process of what they need to do and to self-regulate. Again, this is a work that is guided by two adults that are there. And the structured time that they spend there is only 15 minutes. Okay, and so it's very intentional, the work that we do there. Now, when we talk about tier 2 for the well, this is where we go to the next step in the well, right? And so there's parent consent, there's family consent. We're working intentionally with these kids, with students, twice a week. And so we kind of build that structured time twice a week for them, and they know what they're working on. And so they have an opportunity to practice those skills. And the reality is, as school counselors, oftentimes we come up with a checklist of, coping skills, and we want you to practice this. But the reality is that they cannot practice all those coping skills at school. And so one of the incredible things about the well is that they have that opportunity to practice that coping skill there. And so it's been super positive. It's been a beautiful thing to see. And we love data. Data drives what we do, right? And so just to show you what we found out, so before the official opening, we did a soft opening the year before, going into 2024. But before the opening, just so that you know, and you can see here, we had a total, during the time frame of January through mid-March, we had a total number of incidents, 216. Of those, 45 were hands-on, and 63 were a disruption. We opened the well, and we just wanted to take a look at the data, and what we found is that all of those numbers had gone down, which is great. And then we wanted to even go a little further. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go. And we wanted to compare just that time frame that is super challenging, which is what month of the year? March, right? March. That is just, I don't know what it is, but kids are already relieved, they're just getting really exhausted. So we want to do a 7-week time frame comparison of the year before to what we had seen and perceived with the well as a system. And this is what we found. We went from that 248 to a 184 total number of incidents. Our hands-on went down from 55 to 32, and our disruption went down from 50 to 30, which really showed us that something was happening. And kids were taking accountability, they were taking responsibility, they were given a voice. A lot of the reflections that I personally did with a lot of the kids, and just finding out how they felt that they belonged. And they had a space where they could practice those things. So this has been such a great system that has helped us just shift the entire culture of our school.
Okay. All right, so tier 3, reintegration. All right, so what is reintegration, right? It's the intentional and it's the supportive process of welcoming a student back, right? And it's not just for SI, not for just SH, right? Like we might have a student who was like, oh man, I haven't seen him for like 2 weeks. Oh, there was a family emergency, I had to go to Mexico, right? And like how are we reintegrating those students back, even after a suspension? But just anything in general, right? But when we talk about reintegration, it's not just about like returning to class, we're happy that you're here, but it's about restoring your connection back into the community, right? I don't know what anxieties you have about coming back or what ifs. Belonging and just a readiness to learn. Because we know when kids are worried about things and there's other things that are going on, they are not ready to learn. So a lot of what we do with reintegration, we really want to focus on like kids who have been suspended, right? So when we look at our annual student outcome goal, we looked a lot at our suspension data, and we really wanted to look at our primary suspensions and our subsequent suspensions. So the biggest thing is like, what does reintegration look like? So I know for us and in our district, it lives as a program, right? Kids are in here all day. Like we have a place, it's structured, they start in the morning, you're not doing no drop-offs, right? But maybe for you, for all of you, is what we really wanted to consider was like, you can still embed some of these practices into your existing structures. So not feeling like, oh my God, I have to like create this whole program, but like reintegration can exist in your current systems. So what is the Restore and Repair Center? That just happens to be our name, like specifically for Greenfield. Everyone else has their other names. Like the Cougar Den, there has been plenty of jokes about that one. But really what it is, it's a structured, intentional program or practice, and it's designed to help students reintegrate into the school community after a suspension or in lieu of a suspension. But because we've done this for so long, it also kind of serves a little bit as tier 2 because I don't know what Johnny did this week. He got 3 referrals. I can't wait 4 weeks to get him into a small group and I can have a conversation and I try to get him outside therapy, but there's like a 6-month waiting list. Like we all know we experienced that, right? So it's like, but I do know he's gonna go through the Restore and Repair Center and we're gonna try to support him as much as we can, right? But really it's very intensive. And the analogy that I like to make, right, because the majority of our school counselors is we do small groups, right? This is like small groups on steroids. But we all do it as a community, and Jake will talk about that a little bit later. But like we all know as counselors, like we are the Willy Wonkas of the world. So when you send that permission slip out, right, it's like, it's the golden ticket. Everybody wants it. There's a waiting list. The teachers have a waiting list for those kids too. So this is just an example of all the models we have in our district, but currently, and we're the only ones, but everyone else is starting to move in this direction, is we have a community-based model. We didn't have to hire anybody to do this work. All the counselors are going through this space. We have a clinician, we have a teacher, we have an ed specialist, and we all do this work. But as school counselors, our role in there is definitely doing the SEL and the restorative group.
All right, I think I got the next few. So we use a community-based model. So that meant when we built this, part of it was saying administration, you are in it as well. So we had a period. So we have our day is an advisory period and then 6 periods afterwards. We have a different individual who is in charge of the center for every period of the day, doing a different activity. We've gotten to the place now where we have some authentic conversations around, here's the things that have to happen in it, which we're going to talk about a little bit. Who's really good at that? And who's really bad at doing those certain things? And the people that are bad, they don't do them. And the people that are really good, they get to do those things. Because we want to build a place where it's super successful at helping kids reflect and reintegrate back into school. So, why it's super important, all of your school counselors, if you have to do the same thing every day, you get burnt out so fast. We all do. Same thing. Jorge was talking about our guidance techs who run the well. If a single human has to run that space for the course of a day, the course of the year will kill them. And what I mean by that is like, there's just so much empathy that is coming at them, it's super hard. So what we do in all of our systems is we break them down and say everybody's doing all of it. And we all brunt and carry the load, and we all have different parts, and it helps everybody stay invigorated and continue on and continue to do good work. So like if you're starting to get burnt out and you need a break, that's perfectly fine. You gotta do second period today. I'll go do it. I'll go do second period and I'll go do the reflection part. I'm trying to work through this. Who gets to the program? Okay? Teachers and counselors and stuff, they don't make the determination for, I should say teachers, don't make the determination for kids to go in the program. Administration makes that determination. Okay, but it can be, for sure, every kid who comes from in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension, they're going in it the next day. There isn't a single child on our campus who will be suspended, removed from campus, that we think the next day is going to be just fine. That doesn't work, and y'all know that. This came out of, we answered one question. What do you do with the kid who's been suspended? Is it a 15-minute meeting in the morning and you really think it's going to go okay? Are you really shocked when that peer group got in trouble at lunch again? No, right? And so we take the whole day. We actually don't even take the whole day. We say until they're done. Once we feel like the peer groups and the kids have gotten to a place where they need to be, we can let kids go back to class. But it comes through us. We put them in, they go through the program, okay? And then in the end, we will return them back to class. Basically, we put them back in the environment. And all the work the kids do in RRC, every teacher has access to. If a kid gets into RRC because a teacher wrote a referral about a thing, we'll make a copy of everything that happened and the reintegration plan, and we give it to the teacher. We go, this is what the kids said, how they reflected, what their plan is, and what they're working on. How are you now going to help them? Because they came up with a plan of how they're going to do better. So it's awesome. Now, Jorge's going to get into the details.
All right, so what happens in the program? Just because of time, time flies by. What happens in the program? So there are core components in this program, right? Jake just talked about staffing and the importance of having the entire team there. But we really just focus on trauma-informed practices and restorative practices, social emotional learning. Our part in the program as counselors is we make sure that the reflection questions, that the reflection discussions, and also the work that they do, the processing, takes place, right? And so, but here are our core components that take place. We have an entry process, right? And so in the entry process, the whole purpose of the entry process is to make sure that we're checking in with the student. There's a survey that they take. There's a Chromebook there. We do a feelings check-in, and we just want to connect with the kid. Oftentimes, what we found is that when a kid goes through RRC for the first time, no one has really connected with the kid. So we want to just take the time to ensure that the kid feels connected, that they feel welcome, and that they're going to be there. They're going to be there working with adults, and we just want to make sure to know who they are, maybe their family background. Sometimes they share things like, hey, I didn't eat breakfast, or hey, and so we ensure that those needs are covered too. And so we want to try to understand during this entry process, understand student stories. We also focus on helping students identify their own strengths during the entry process. It's oftentimes we just, at least in the punitive system, like, oh, you did this, you're here, and you're not going to leave until you learn. They don't really have the time to really think about what they're good at. Or, because they're not defined by the mistakes that they make, just as we are not defined by the mistakes that we've made in our lives, right? And so we just want to make sure that we spend some time processing that with the kids and remind them that they still have strengths and they still have value, right? And so we do all of that. We identify barriers to success. We have a student information sheet that it really helps us counselors when we're doing this processing with them, just identify maybe some barriers that they would otherwise not disclose to us. It could be anything from home and family to school classroom or any physical environments or concerns that might be getting in the way. There's breakfast and broadcasts, we do community circles, we do feelings check-in, we do our empathy interviews, and we just want to make sure that we spend some time just getting to know the student and identifying maybe some things that were not communicated. We also focus a lot on restorative reflection. Counselors, during our time in RRC, yes, that's our intention, that's our purpose, to ensure that we are facilitating these conversations. But the beautiful thing about RRC is that it can happen anywhere. And so it can happen with the teacher that's during their third period for us, we have periods, right? And so that teacher specifically does a lesson on setting goals and all that, but reflection can happen there too. And so restorative reflection is a structured process that really just helps the student kind of like think of what happened, what's going on, right? Why are you here? How did this affect you? How did you affect other people? And so here are some of the restorative questions. And these are just, our district helped us put together these questions too, of like identifying or leading the conversation with the students when they're there with us. Who have caused impact and how has that affected other people. And so we just spent a lot of time doing that there. And finally, we do focus on the infraction. So what was the reason that the student ended in RRC? And so based on the infraction, the information that we get from our admin teams, we work on this reflection piece. That is, it's an SEL, social emotional learning. We have the standards there, and we also have just the reflection that's aligned with SEL. And so we want to make it relevant, we want to make it important, and we also want to continue to do that work with them.
So going back to the well, like we talked about earlier, this is how it's incorporated into Tier 3. So every student who goes through RRC, they get a moment in time where they will go to the well, right? And either they have a skill that they've already been practicing if they've been in it before, or they're going to learn a new skill, right? And then what we do with that is they incorporate it into their reintegration plan, right? So when we talk about what can you do next time, and hopefully there's a list of those things, you actually did a practical skill. And we know that you can do this on campus. So let's incorporate that into your plan. We also worked with our VAPA, Visual and Performing Arts Program Specialists, and they worked with us, and they actually created some SEL art curriculum that we use. So we call it our elective period. And yes, some teachers do not like that, but it is what it is. So that's why the picture in the beginning, like I don't know if you've worked with your young boys who have ADHD, but you give them some clay beads, and they will focus for a good 40 minutes putting that bracelet together, right? So that's another incorporation that we do have SEL art. We currently have one of our clinicians doing this. So reintegration plans, again, it serves as a roadmap to support our students and their return. And these are just some things for the sake of time that we focus on. Here's some examples of reintegration plans. And you're gonna look at it, and it might not make sense to you because our reintegration plans cater to what our students are learning. Based on the SEL lessons we've created or that we're utilizing, it's gonna look different. But we also make sure with our newcomers and our ELs or our students on IEPs that we're also modifying our reintegration plans. So one thing we did create for all of you, and it's a bit.ly right there, so it's all caps, RTSS, and then reintegration, and you have access to that, is we outlined how you can create a reintegration plan for your students at your site, right? Like I said, you don't have to have the actual program to do it, but we're so used to I don't know about you, but I know there was a time where we were creating the safety plans for students. until like the district office started to create those for us, right? So you can sit down with your administrators or your counseling team, or if you're a solo counselor and you're like, when a kid returns from suspension, what do I want that reintegration plan to look like? So this kind of outlines that for you, and it's a 2-pager, and it also kind of lists like what reintegration is. So the exit process. At the end of the day, 6th period for us, all of our students, right, they're going to take the post survey. They have their reintegration plan that we can give a copy to the teacher to, so they're on the same page with the kid, right? And we close out with a checkout circle, right? Restorative practices right there. We're going to close out, what did you learn today? What do you hope to bring back out to the school community and things like that. And again, as a team, because we actually meet every week. So we meet like as our counseling department team meeting with admin, but then we have our staff meetings, which are our student assistant team meetings. And so sometimes we get kids who've gone through double RC, and then we have like our additional intervention checklist, and we're like, what else does this kid need? So when we talk about tier 4 reconnection, like what are the additional services? Do they need a 2x10? Do we need to send out, an outside referral for therapy? Do we need to schedule a pre-SST or an SST? Do we think we've done enough to be like, now we need to go through assessment? As school counselors, we're just aware of this, but this is just process data, perception data, and outcome data that we look at. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through this. But the most impact that we have in this program, and this is for all the 5 middle schools that we worked with, but you'll see in 22 and 23, and then the 23-24 school year, and this was updated data, and I actually have end of the year data to share. Greenfield was the only one in those 2 years that had this restorative program. And this whole past year, I just dropped down to 23-24, and you look at 24-25, and like everything's in the green, right? So where we have the most impact is, I know a kid got suspended. Well, now I'm looking at subsequent suspensions. Are those kids going back into the school community and making better decisions, not getting suspended? I'm also looking at the total number of incidences, which for us, those are school referrals. And are they also not getting referrals, right? I can't prove causation, just correlation. And again, the amount of students with subsequent suspensions. So, that's the most impact we have. So if I'm breaking this down and disaggregating it, right, like we're making huge improvements. And then this is just our end of the year data. So for all of our middle schools, we ended up with a 4.6% decrease in actual suspensions. But when you actually do the percent of change formula, our kids were 35%. All of our middle school learners less likely to get suspended. So to see all of this amazing work to be done in 1 year, it wasn't that I was shocked. Jake was like, I'm not shocked. It's just phenomenal. So I don't know about you, but when I say small groups on steroids, like we go through like 200 and something kids, right? Like I can't get through 200 and something kids in a small group. I always see impact in our groups and our guidance lessons, and I know counselors are hesitant to be like, I don't have time to go in there, I'm going to spend 51 minutes, but I like to think that this is proof of concept. And then being a ramp school and showing that we not only have a comprehensive model, but that like we can find innovative ways to meet kids and meet with more of them and do this intentional work. So just like, again, one of the biggest things that I look at, and this is just from Greenfield, was like, okay, 231 students went through, and you'll get like teachers who are like, well, Johnny went in there like 3 times, but did Johnny go in there for the same offense? Right? Because we all know, as school counselors, the reflection's always going to be different. It was a different incident, and the SEL component that we're providing, the skill building, will be different based on the offense by the student out there. So based on that, there was only 37 students who came in there for a repeated offense. So only 16% of our kids, right, we're going to talk about and of those 37 kids, right, 16 of our kids were our students who had IEPs. But we were able to see a 53% decrease in subsequent suspensions. So, how can I support reintegration? When you welcome back a student, how are you going to build community and trust with that student? How are you going to identify barriers, but also their strengths, right? I love to call these root practices. We're going to do a restorative reflection, and then we're going to create that reintegration plan with them. And you're going to do it with them, right? And then, I know you can't sit with a kid for like an hour and a half, right? When they come back from a suspension. But then how are you going to reintegrate SEO? So this is all of our information, our email, the QR code. If you have questions, because I don't know how much time we have for Q&A, but obviously if we can't get to questions, we will sit down and answer those questions for you via email, because we only have 2 minutes. I just started getting on TikTok, but I've been on Instagram, but there's that too. But feel free to email us, and we can take questions for a few minutes.
Yes, go for it. Yes. Of course. It works. You know what like solves pushback? Success. Right? And so the other piece too was showing them. Like a lot of the different things that we had, right? They just thought it was like the kids go to a different space. We began to let teachers circulate through. The other big one is giving them the work. But of course, anything you do, someone's going to push back. But when we started to have success, now I have a line of teachers who all want to work in that space. Everybody wants in. Anyone have a question? Yes? Correct. Yeah, do you have a counselor that works with your advisors, or they all on their own? That would be my question to you. Yeah. That would be the next big piece that I would have in the morning time when kids land, is I would make the advisors be part of like the integration kit when they're going into the program. That way, because they should be the trusted adult on campus, right? They should be the human, and that should be the bridge with the families as the kids are coming in. That's how we would answer it. Questions, put them up there. I promise you we'll email you, and we'll be around afterwards if anyone's got anything. Thank you, guys. That time.